Put away the freaking smartphone. Put it away. Put away the freaking smartphone. One of my friends told me that. He didn't say it with words, so that's my own, like, embellishment. He just went like this. And I see gestures as words, I guess. Good morning. Put away your freaking smartphone. What are you doing? I wrote about this encounter. I'm going to just share that with you. But first, I have other things on my mind I want to share with you. Okay? Good Erev Shabbos to everybody. Good Erev Sukkot to everyone. I want to read you a poem about a sukkah. And the noise sukkah of a Chabadnik. You don't see it. It's not so obvious. Okay? It's not like with glitter all over it necessarily. You might not. Good morning. Shalom Aleichem. Aleichem Shalom. Lined by ceremonial blades. Noise sukkah. It's interesting in the altar, in the base of Migdash, in the Holy Temple, on the altar there, they lined it in sukkahs with the araves, these long willow branches. They lined it. It's a mitzvah of the Nevi'im. Good morning, Menachem, for you. But here I'm not talking about that so much, but it's an image of things standing. Sukkahs is all about standing. Like what? How do we stand on Sukkot with our lulav and esrog? Okay, we're holding our ceremonial blade. We line the shuls like that. We came out victorious. What are we celebrating on Sukkot? Is it just a fress? Another fress? Yeah, I want to talk about fressing. That's my next haiku. It's about fressing. It's important too. We do a lot of fressing. Okay, I want to eat like multigrain fressing, like a normal human being. It's not about stuffing as much fattening foods and carbs as we can into our bodies until we just feel disgusting. That's not what you celebrate on Sukkot. So get that out of your head and say, yes, I have to be normal. You're being normal. You're not hurting yourself. Don't party till you are hungover the whole day, the next day. There's no grace or glamour or fun in that. It's fun for 5 minutes and then it's a horror show. Lined by ceremonial blades, noise sukkah. What's the noise sukkah of a Chabadnik? We don't have all that glitter and all the some people put up fake pictures, the Rabbi, their children's artwork, things like that. Yeah, it happens. But it's not the way we mainly express the mitzvah of noise sukkah, beautifying our sukkah. That's the sukkah itself, okay? It's the lulav sitting in the corner of your sukkah that's I came out victorious. God loves me. You know what sukkah celebrates? The faith that you know that God wants you to succeed. That's what sukkah is. Why? Because you're celebrating coming out of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur on top of the world. Which brings me to my next thought of the morning. It goes like this. Royal feast. Petals fall at her feet. Where does the king dine? He doesn't eat in his place, it says in Zohar. He doesn't eat in his royal palace. He dines in, I like to say, the garden of the bridal chamber. The bridal chamber is, if you had a queen, wouldn't you give her her own palace? That's where he dines. I don't know, in the garden. There's one place it says that in the bridal chamber. Another place it's Basiligani, it starts showing the verse. But what is God's Basiligani? It's the base of Migdash. Okay, so you have to make your home a base of Migdash. So, but if you realize that you're at a bridal feast, it's with you, because God's your bestie and He's the one that gave you the judgment. So how would you judge your bestie? You really do you care about it, or you always trying to do subterfuge against your best friend? Is that the type of person you are? Or do you have an actual loving, caring relationship where you care about the other person and are selfless to that other person, and it's reciprocal? Ava chayzeres la'atzmai, it says in this mimer that I'm freaking out about. Good morning. Love is a form of self-love, it says. Where is the model of selfless love? The model of love of God to the Jewish people, it's seen as Kinar Yisrael ve'aveyu. The Jewish people are a lad, a youth, they're a young child, and I love him. So we have to understand what is particular about a nar that makes him the chosen. It brings a medrash in this mimer of a king with lots of children. Okay, Haman he wasn't a king, he was a minister, and he had like, 100 sons or something like that. They got around. So the king has a lot of children, but the youngest, that's his beloved. Yosef and the coat of many colors. You see that ingrained in the Torah itself, and this medrash describes the love of a king to his youngest child. Specifically a king, he could have said anybody. King, God. God loves, I love the Jewish people because he's a lad. So the mimer outlines two different types of child. And I wrote about it this morning, okay? It's under the title, Put Away the Freaking Smartphone, or maybe a second version if the staff say, no, we're gonna go over his head. We're gonna call it Avad Haruchni. You can't use the word freaking because it's a corruption of a worse word. I mean, I'm sensitive to that. They might not even know the English derivations of things, and they probably don't, since the English is like the first language in Granite, the English. So I have the subheader, too old school to find your inner child. Okay, what's this pop psychology about an inner child? But there is something. He's the chosen. He's the chosen. Yeshua was a nar, la yamash b'teicha el. He was a child. He was a youth. He never left the tent. There's two levels of what that means. But first, I want to describe that moment. I wrote about it. I just wrote it this morning. I whipped this off. But okay, you help me. I appreciate the help. Aso. Thank you. It's going to be a bit rough. It was clearly a dismissive gesture, not the warm welcome you'd expect of a chassid, a friend. Okay, this is my good friend. I hadn't seen him for a while, and he shows up at Leil Slichas. Leil Slichas, the place is upside down. It's on wheels. It's rocking. This was after, it was like 2:15 in the morning. I don't know, late. It was late, and everyone had been preparing all day. So it was like a 9-hour experience. Coming to its culmination in a joyous Rachamana de'ane Sviver Libo. Okay, Rachamana de'ane. God is the merciful of the impoverished, the brokenhearted. Shabbat Shalom. So we celebrate recognizing that God's our bestie, so he cares about us. We're the Nar Yisrael ve'aveyu. Tishrei was kicking off in the biggest way imaginable in the yeshiva. It was the first night of Slichas, and the Zal was on wheels well past 2 in the morning. The vast majority, even among Chabadniks, were asleep in comparison. Even if they were not tucked safely in bed yet. It's like 2:15 in the morning. Most people, they were sleeping before they were sleeping at 12 o'clock also. It's true. It's not your fault. Don't worry. A younger man, a visitor it seemed. Oops, there's a big truck passing by. Whoa, with a big truck on it. Yeah, that's a bigger truck. A younger man, a visitor it seemed, had his smartphone out to capture a moment. This is not talking about me yet. He felt must endure, must be shared. The Bachram swept him up in the revelry. Okay, people don't like to see other people with a smartphone because it means that person is not enjoying the moment. They have a very good argument. Not everybody wants to be the cameraman. You know, it's not a natural thing to want to stand there like this. But guess what? Someone has to be the cameraman. And to sweep him up like that is really denying him his role. The Rebbe greeted the cameraman. The Yad CNN come to the Rebbe. What's your message for the world? Everyone's saying Mashiach's coming, the Messiah is coming finally. You're saying this when has Judaism said it so publicly? So CNN had to come by, amongst others, and they had to. Okay, so they asked the Rebbe, what's the message for the world? Add in acts of goodness and kindness. Even a little bit will have a great impact on the world. Change the world. Doing small things. Say hello to your neighbor. Pick up your cigarette butts. Be a mensch. Care. So the Rebbe, gives dollars to people as they pass by, including people the people with the microphones, yes, here, nice photo op. But the Rebbe doesn't stop at the photo op. That's a good subheader for this. The Rebbe does not stop with the photo opportunity, because the cameraman himself is important. He gives the cameraman $1 for a blessing to give charity, and he talks to the cameraman. He's not an invisible person holding a frame. He's a person holding a camera. The cameraman doesn't want to do it. He'd like to be sitting at home eating ice cream, watching football. But he's a person. So someone wants to record an event. Check this out. But that's not the dismissiveness I speak of. I had my smartphone out too, broadcasting live the only sign of life, literally for thousands of miles to the west and hundreds of miles to the east. Seriously, okay, you go south a bit, you'll find somebody dancing. But go to the west. How far would you have to go from Toronto, from Bathurst Street? How far west would you have to go to see people up at that hour dancing like crazy on Leil Slichas because they're about to approach the palace of the king? Who's doing that? For thousands of miles, literally, okay, I don't know how many. You take out your map. And hundreds of miles to the east, maybe to Montreal, they had some life too. I'm sure they did. But I don't know if there's a yeshiva to the west. Maybe in Vancouver there's something. Yeah, probably in Vancouver. But how far away is Vancouver? Like 2,000 miles away? Or kilometers? I'm supposed to be French speaking. I know how to speak in metric. Okay, I didn't measure it with a ruler either. This was a good friend questioning my childish behavior. Childish to always be I'm never there. I'm never present. That's like a child doing this. I blasted another guy. He's like jittery afterwards because he's been jittery for like 3 hours while he sits there in front of a screen. Yes, you have to be a good parent. Don't take me as a model. I have my own ambitions. It's not, you have to be a good parent. It's an aveda for some people. For men in particular, it's an aveda. We want to conquer the world, okay? If we don't want to conquer the world, we want to conquer the voices that tell us not to have a good time. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. Clearly, he was telling me, be present. Put away your freaking phone. What a throwback. And from such an unlikely source. This is a person who is a revolutionary in chinuch, Baal Tshuva, an old friend. Old school clearly lingers even among the most progressive among us. This was a very old school sneer. Like the new school, like from Billy Idol on, it was a different sneer. I can't even do it because my Billy Idol's off. It's a sorry menu, like sneer at the world, but this is like a different type of sneer. This is like, are you normal? That type of sneer. The other sneer, the Billy Idol sneer, is like, I'm better than you. Or like Sarah sneering at Pari. He's offering the whole world. Achashverosh said, Ad chatzia malchus v'seyas. Whatever you say to half my kingdom. Pari says, I'll give you everything. Sarah, ruler of the world. Sarah, that's what Sarah means. And Sarah's just like, I have an angel, patch. Don't mess with me. You sniveling 1 amma tall person. He's 1 cubit tall. Sarah could step on him. Okay, she wasn't afraid of his alligator like Moshe was. This was Sarah Imenu. It's the women specifically who are the most powerful, I'm telling you. There's no one as powerful, in the whole Tanakh, there is no one as powerful as Sarah. Show me where I'm wrong. Show me one person that had the power of Sarah Imenu. Where she can destroy a city. Just like that. I mean, Shimon and Levi were pretty big warriors, right? They had to use swords. They had to use subterfuge. Sorry, Menu. Hach. Hit. She just says one word and bam. The whole world's at its knees. Through power, the whole world in that instance. Before I was talking about, what was his name? Rabbi Melech. Melech Plishtim. And his whole city were gone. You know, and they'll die in the most disgusting way possible. All your orifices. Okay, that's the way you don't want to go. Okay, you don't want to explode like they're worried about the man. They thought they're going to explode. All this man, okay, we don't have any plumbing out here for a reason. They didn't want to eat their livestock. They complained about that. He didn't give us any meat. Our cattle, you know, I'm not going to eat that. We're going to eat man only. And they're like winking at God. So like, give them quail until they platz, until they burst out. You don't want to go that way. So the man eaters thought that at some point we're going to burst out like the quail eaters. So Sarah had that power. Okay, that's a side point. It's just an interesting point. So we get lost in that. Sarah laughed and got away with it. See, when you say short lines, it's so much easier for me to just read it. And I know that you have good things to say. You're welcome to post on my Rabbi's page, which is not so popular yet. Or anywhere. I don't know. Post anywhere. You post good stuff. Especially if it's Torah. True, the evils of smartphones are well known even to the unwise. Yet does anyone remember our intrepid leader's approach to technology? At least when it comes to a fatza? Have we completely forgotten what our mission is in this world? I am astonished! Our Rebbe is a leader who acknowledges and blesses even the cameraman who accompanies journalists to get the Rebbe's message out about Geula. The Rebbe's message is simple. Add a little more in goodness and kindness to bring Mashiach. Yet he demands the utmost publicity. Mashiach will be reported in the papers indeed. I have often wondered what the model chassid looks like. There are so many varieties if we think about it. But there are two general strains. There are chassidim who simply wish to reflect and embody the Rebbe, and there are those who simply wish to be genuine devotees. These chassidim strive to be themselves and use their unique personality to further the Rebbe's goal. So you have these two types, right? You have the robotic type that are just, I'm not going to be me, I'm going to be the Rebbe. And that is very high level. I'm not trying to take away from that. In fact, it has its place. That is a step towards a higher level, which is actually lower. Okay, I know that makes no sense. We'll see. Last Shabbos, Rabbi Noam Wagner for the Mesivta here in Toronto, he was on fire, as you would expect. He was screaming about the forgotten words of the Sudas set for celebrating the redemption, not with fine scotch and the best herring around, but with the Leviasan Sharbar and Yanim Meshumar. He was talking about how literally the redemption is here, as the Rebbe said, and that all the things are here for you to enjoy. It's not just the treasure chest that you have to open by doing one more good deed. Here the Rebbe says you don't need to do anything. You just have to open your eyes and see it. So the question is, how do you open your eyes? These videos are intended for that. Like, I should put that as the opposite. What's the opposite of a disclaimer? What's the mission statement? Open your eyes. Okay, that's what Rabbi Noam Wagner said. That's what we used to scream about 25 years ago. Good morning. That's what people were screaming about. But nobody screams about that anymore except Noam Wagners of the world. How many are there? For 1,000 miles to the west, 1,000 to the east, you won't find people like that. He happens to be in South Africa. There's no people. He has a whole continent, okay, that are dependent on him just by being there. These are special people. There's not many people that are screaming like this about what the Rebbe screamed about. I think that there's something more that has to be done than just keep the same message of 25 years ago. I think that we have to make it practical and tangible, and like the 7 steps towards being a redeemed Jew. Okay, I think we have to do that, even though it sounds ridiculous. I think we have to do that, because if there is one guy who says, yeah, I'm living with the Leviasan, I eat Leviasan for breakfast, that's my breakfast of champions. If there's one guy that does that, don't you want to know how he did it? Find that one guy who says, this is a person that, to me, he has his Nitzitz Mashiach revealed in him. And I want to emulate that, or be that person yourself. Even better, write a book. How to be me. Do that. Be the best you could be. That's what I'm writing about here. On a more personal level, Rabbi Noam Wagner went further. You are a Rebbe, he was screaming repeatedly to the Bachrim. Thank goodness it was Shabbos and the smartphones were still tucked away. What in the world was he talking about? Clearly he was talking about something very deep. The place our finite souls meet their infinite maker, no? Or was he just off his rocker? In the forbidden mimer of 5666, the one locked away for 50 years until the green light went up in Shemayim, it speaks of 2 levels of love of the Jewish people as Na'ar, as a youth. It says in the Zohar, there is no love like the love of a young child. It is a true essential love inherent in all people, even to a child that is not related. Yet there are 2 meanings of Nar, which are almost diametrically opposed. Think about this. We're going to have 2 models here. One's going to look robotic to you, and one will look like the innocence of youth. Good morning, Rabbi Yosef, my friend. The beauty and innocence of youth. That's, so you have the robot versus there's no robot in me because I'm just me. I have no choice. An infant has no choice but to be themselves. You haven't brainwashed them yet, or educated them yet. There's 2 types of yesh chinuch, yesh chinuch. Okay, Zohar always says there's love and there's love. There's this, there's this and there's this. Psik taimu b'neiho. There's a line. There's a comma there. Avram. Moshe. Nar. So one has, one doesn't. Okay. Nar means faithful servant. A misharis, a faithful servant, an embodiment of the leader. This is the first nar. It's the robotic-looking one. And nar also means small, diminutive, cut off from the original source and wellspring. Throughout the life of Moshe Rabbeinu, Yeshua was nar lo yamash b'teicha el, a lad who never left the tent of Moshe, his master. Unlike the 72 elders who received this of the spirit of Moshe, but who awakened within them. But awakened within themselves, this needs some work. The newfound energy and inspiration. They interpreted what they got from Moshe. Moshe gave them raw energy to be the best them that they could be. That's what the 72 elders was caning. Or was it 70? The 70 elders. 2 were they accepted? I can't remember. He reflected, so Yeshua did not interpret at all. He was Moshe. He reflected the light of Moshe in the way a full moon lights up the night. He was the son of the night, in my word. In the words of the Rebbe Nishmas Eden, the level of bittul and utter devotion of self, for he was no more than a recipient from Moshe. That is, he received hashpah through the sensibilities of Moshe himself, not according to his own sensibilities and faculties. This is a great Veda, to be in a state of bittul without any self-awareness at all. Okay, that's Misharis. That's the robot. You are not you, because you are completely transparent of your source. His source, a disciple, the source of a disciple is the master. Moshe Rabbeinu was master, he was disciple in the most pure way, that he was like he shone only the light of Moshe, nothing of his own. This is the chassid, truly a disciple who simply absorbs, offering nothing of his own, a total reflection of the source, a full moon. After 120 years, literally, when Moshe passed the mantle of leadership onto Yeshua for the first time was forced to shine on his own. True, he was not the sun. He wasn't even the moon in its full glory. Here was a man who did nothing but listen until now. And now the voice was to be his own. He was a moon that had waned, a nar, a cotton. Yet, ve'ehavehu, God loves him most of all. Who does God love most of all? Who is Yeshua here? Who is the chosen one to take the Jewish people into the land? Not Moshe Rabbeinu. Hakel Rishon Gel Achron, I know. Moshe thought he was still alive as so long as Yeshua was alive, but look what happens with Yeshua. He was his own source of light. Remember, the moon is going to be its own source of light. But he had to embody that in some way before that is realized in a full way. He had to be himself at this point. Now that's a crucial moment, and it's a huge message for us after the 28th of Nisan, 5751, 1991. And the Rebbe said, now it's up to you. Now it's up to you. Who's you? I had no me. There was no me for 40 years, 42 years. There was no me. Now you're asking me to be me, 40 years probably. Now you're asking me to be me. I had to get to the date to the Rebbe. I had to get to the Rebbe's das. I had to be the Rebbe. Now I have the opportunity. I know Yeshua went 40 years in the desert, didn't he? Now he had the opportunity. Now he's going to be Yeshua. Before that, he could not be. He was Moshe, because he didn't exist. He was in the oil. Where was Sarah? In the oil. Sarah was the most powerful person in the world, but she was in the oil. She had a place. When she had to rule, she was the ruler of all humanity. But that's not her typical place. It's an exception to the rule when she says, Chamasti Alecha, my vengeance upon you. She didn't talk like that all the time, presumably. The Torah specifies the exceptions to the rule. Elsewhere it tells you, Yaakov ish tam yeshiv eyel. It tells you his personality. It says, Neach ish tzadik, tamim halya b'deresav. Neach was a great man. Everyone is a great man. So they tell you a general principle of the person. Sarah was a great woman. When she says, Chamasti Alecha, my vengeance upon you, I don't think she spoke like that all the time. But she was prepared to speak like that when she had to speak like that. I gave a different interpretation of what she really meant. But let's understand in the most simple way. That's not characteristic of who she was. That was an opportunity. She had to cry out. You know, if there's a child, chas v'shalom, on the train track, you do what you have to. You push the guy out of the way so you can save him. And you don't hurt the other guy, obviously. You try not to, at least. God loves him most of all. He was chosen to lead the Jewish people into the holy and expansive land. Because it means making the godless a higher state is achieved. Okay, whatever. That's basically what the energy that you get for being God's chosen. The non-Melashin Katnus. The very vulnerable person. That's the chosen person. The one who's just reflective of who he is. There's no voices imposed upon him. It's just yourself. That's what Yeshua had to be at that point. That's what the Rebbe is asking us to be now. And people, if they're not doing that, if you're looking at other people askance, what are you doing? Look at yourself and say that, and you be the best person. So I want to be the guy that puts away his smartphone instead of sharing that moment with the whole world. And make me want to be you. And I want to be him because he's a great guy. But I'm saying in this, I don't understand. I mean, that's sorry. I mean, in the sense that I spoke about in the good way. I'm expressing my sensitivity, and therefore automatically you will want to banish Hagar Ke'ilu. You want to do that now because I'm just telling you how I feel. That's the way I interpret Sarah's Chamasi Alecha. I'm just going to express to you my sensitivities, and automatically that will be upon you. I just know that, so I don't have to say it with any vengeance. Chas v'chalila to start to speak like that. I don't believe she did. Ever. I don't believe you sometimes fight with those you love. You do not fight with those you love. You do not fight. That is a sickness to think that. Come on. We don't fight with people. We care for people. These are the simplest ABCs of ethics. You don't need to be Jewish to know that. You could be, okay, I once got in trouble. Okay, I'm not going to talk about it. I've spoken about, go to rewind, like 15 years when I wasn't online. He was victorious in the ultimate purpose to settle the land and make a true dwelling place for God in the world. Yeshua could not have done it were it not for his total bittul. He had to be a nar melash misharis first. He had to be the ultimate disciple. He had to do that. He was not worthy had he not done that first. You have to have a process of education whereby there is a different message you tell a young person than to an adult. There is a different message or a different stage of maturity in their life. that I don't understand the way that Mechanchim, the teachers, teach the Bachrim, because I don't relate to it. They tell them, be a robot. And I'm saying I don't think that fits in with the Rebbe's message. But in this context, maybe there is a time where that's more emphasized than others. Okay, you can argue about how much exactly. But there is a purity that is the first stage. Nar Malash Misharis, when you're a disciple. Before you're the master, you're the guru now, okay? In some context, you're a disciple. In some context, you have to be a mashpia. You have to be makom sheinish. Yeshua could not have done it were it not for his total bittul. Yet the whole point of that preparatory stage was to empower him to find his true self and shine on his own. Isn't that what the Rebbe is telling us? If you're old school, you will not bring Geula. Why? Because you tried. Now it's time for new ideas, and if you don't, you should be begging for the youth to come up to new ideas. Saying, I want to be radical, I just don't know how to be. I'm too old school. I don't know what the world's saying. I'm not in touch with reality. I need young blood with new freaking ideas. Freaking ideas. Someone write that, please, because that's a nice expression, because it's the ideas. It's our ideas. We're the generation now, right? But that's what's needed. Just say it better than the next guy, and maybe 2 people will say it now. Okay, so learn English and Spanish. If you have to get your message across. Become an expert in language, or like smell good. Someone I know thinks it's good to wear cologne in the street. I don't know. It says that the Talmud Chacham doesn't go up mavus b'shuk. He doesn't perfume himself before he goes out into the marketplace. He smells like rawhide. That's off topic. That is why it is none other than God's very essence that can create ex nihilo yesh ma'ayin. Because our personal interactions in this physical freaking world, especially our close relationships, specifically those things and people that resonate most with us, that speak to us most, is where we derive our most intimate and real relationship with God. How do I know? Because I read it in a mimer. That's the forbidden mimer of the Rebbe Rashab that was packaged away for 50 years. Until the Rebbe said, there is actually a green light in heaven right now. This was a long time ago, so I just discovered it now. Why? Because the Rebbe spoke about it in 1990. He referenced this mimer. Maybe he referenced it 24 times before that, but I never saw it. Here he did. So it's like a reawakening of these ideas in the last sikhas that we have from that time of the year. It's like the first or the second last time that the Rebbe spoke at that time of year. Before, we hear the next sikhas of the Rebbe. As the Rebbe Rashab teaches in the Forbidden Mimer, the means to fathom and relate, that these are the means to fathom and relate to God's core and essence, is through the things that God creates for your world experience, and not the things that you don't care about. The Time magazine articles that are about quantum physics that you don't care about, or I do. That sounds interesting to me. But okay, about 16 ways to decorate your bathroom. I don't really care. I mean, I do, but I don't want to read that article. Okay, I have other things to read. Let someone else read that article and know it well, and let that guy. I'll pay you $100 to do my bathroom. Or okay, I should be generous. I say, okay. As the Rebbe Rashab teaches in the Forbidden Mimer, the means to fathom it and relate to God's core and essence. That is the voice that God is looking for us to find in ourselves. That is the voice the Rebbe demanded when we find, especially since 28th, and this is 5751, it is up to us to find our inner child and rise to the challenge of conquering the world. We need not be afraid of those who are left in our dust. God is blazing a trail for us to be ourselves in a genuine, real way, to reveal in ourselves our inherent dignity and majesty. As the Medrash teaches, the king chooses the youngest child as his ultimate love. And I wish everyone a really amazing, good, awesome Erev Shabbos and Erev Yom Tov. So, what are we celebrating at Sukkot? It's the faith that God was our bestie on the Yamim Noraim, that in Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, that's our bestie, looking into us and saying, I know this guy. I know why he did that. Why he killed a mosquito. That was beneath his dignity to do that, and he did it. I know why. He was getting stung so many times, he swatted it. He regrets it. God sees into our hearts. If you have Rahmanis on yourself, so forgive yourself every day so you look in the mirror every day, don't you think your bestie wants to see the best in you? So in Sukkot, we're being embraced by God by living in His embrace. Everything in His embrace. So how do we know that we deserve to sit in a sukkah? Because we believe in the Torah, which teaches us that that's the model of the sukkah. That's the lulav. The lulav is our victory sword. Good morning, Joel Merkur. Our victory sword. There's a lulav, and the sukkah is like, so that's a noi sukkah. That's why we shake the lulav specifically in the sukkah, because I think that's the noi sukkah. You don't put it on your walls necessarily. It's the walls themselves. It's the victory is inherent in the sukkah itself, that God embraces us, that's the God who judged us, that in Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, that He wants us to have a successful year and bring Mashiach this year. It's enough already, okay? If I'm already, I don't mind just chilling out and drinking martinis all day. I'll put my foot up, I'll sit on the slab and read the Sunday newspaper. How do I know that I would do that? Because I did do that. When I didn't know that there was a purpose in life, I thought that was the purpose of life. But to think about things and eventually develop and eventually find the Torah. So yeah, I was in a gestation period. It was my solarium. It was my cocoon, or my what's it called? The gestation things. What do they call those things? Those little bubbles that you put a preemie in. I don't remember what they call them. It's been a long time. Okay, so I don't know if I spoke enough about one more thing. Just it says the haiku that I wrote was "Royal feast, petals fall at her feet." Okay, so what if you are God's beloved, and He only eats in His bridal chamber? I spoke about in the beginning, and I spoke about yesterday, and I didn't speak about it enough because there's an amazing Zohar that speaks about this, and it's quoted in Chassidus. But what would you deny? You're precious. I saw that. I was looking at an English translation of Machzor. There's this Yom Kippur, which is unusual for me, and it used the word precious for Yelid Shashuim, my precious child. Yelid Shashuim, my precious child. What would you deny your precious child? Okay, and take it over to the world of like bridal chamber. What would you deny the queen of the matronissa? What would you deny the Jewish people if they are your precious? The petals will fall at her feet. Why? Because the flowers and everything that goes with it was created for you. B'shvil Yisrael. The Torah is our way to understand how we could actually bring that out. But that is the reality. That's why the luchas are two. And there's something higher than luchas. That's what we get on Yom Kippur, the day Avat. 1 minute. We go above the Torah. You go inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim because you reach the highest stage. Naram Lash Misharis, you are Moshe Rabbeinu. You understand God as God understands God. Okay, that's like, wow. And then, but what's higher than, what's the ultimate purpose? What's the Dirbas Tatainim? What's the going to the Eretz HaChava, the expansive land, when you have Meichin the Godless? Okay, look it up. What that means, when you're able to refine your character, when you achieve a state which you were already at Moshe Rabbeinu level, actually get higher than that. That's what the Mimer is talking about. That's specifically from the things that resonate with you in your world. That's how you have a connection with Atzmos. That's higher than Moshe Rabbeinu as Moshe Rabbeinu understands God. That's higher. That's the Nar Yisrael, the Veyu. Have a great Shabbos and a good Yom Tov.